Let's talk about Man vs. Bee, Netflix's latest comedy caper series that sees the slapstick return of the great Rowan Atkinson. Key plot details will be discussed here, so expect spoilers ahead. You have been warned. Man vs. Bee. Yep, we're going there. The premise is, well, you can probably guess. The fact they've been able to extract 9 episodes out of this concept is an incredible feat, but is also a testament to how smart Atkinson is when it comes to this field of comedy. Generally speaking, you don't see an awful lot of stuff like this nowadays, not least on the streaming powerhouse that is Netflix. Rowan Atkinson is a specialist in physical humour, with his exaggerated body language, facial expressions, and situational comedy becoming his hallmarks from the likes of Mr. Bean and Johnny English. He's a modern-day Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin, and it's truly wonderful to see him back in a show like this. A more detailed version of the premise is that Atkinson plays Trevor Bingley, who has just got a new job with a house-sitting company, and this is his first post. Unluckily for him, he's not brought in gently, as he is tasked with looking after a wealthy couple's home, the Kolstad Bergenbattens. Clearly, Trevor is naive in the job, which isn't a good start, but the couple fire off a bunch of instructions to him as they're in a rush to leave. What's brilliant is they fire so much information at him, you feel like Trevor yourself as a viewer. You're only just seeing this home for the first time, and the amount of rules and how-to-dos thrown at you boggles your brain. But what's great from a scripting point of view is that throughout the series, every one of the things mentioned here is explored at some point and winds up becoming an obstacle or is destroyed in some way. I went back to watch just this scene after I'd finished the show, and whenever something else was brought up, I was now aware of where that particular thing headed. It's a great setup. But how do all of these things end up getting destroyed? Because of a bee. Simple as that. A single bee that across 9 chapters buries itself into Trevor's brain, tormenting him. Every time Trevor tries to attack the bee, it ends up having a ghastly ripple effect, and that's what I find so ingenious about this series, the geography. Other than the odd few cutaways, the entire thing takes place inside the house, only in a small handful of rooms because a lot of it is open plan. The ability to make 9 episodes worth of story happen in this enclosed environment and not make it feel like padding or filler is an astounding accomplishment. There are so many moving parts, yet they are all given a purpose, and many wind up overlapping with each other. Room full of priceless items with a security door on it, dog gets in and gets trapped inside, destroying the items. Trevor tries to break in with a hammer, which causes a painting to be damaged. Then he intentionally damages the sofa to repair the painting. The house is just full to the brim with these plot devices, none of which are MacGuffins. One issue segues perfectly into the next, stringing along a rapid burst of calamity. Trevor is even left a manual with all the information in he could possibly need, yet he even ends up destroying that. I can only imagine how long it must have taken to plan this series out. Certain situations are foreshadowed and then explored several episodes apart, such as the weed burner used by the gardener, which comes up again in the finale. It's as if every room and every item used or impacted by Trevor trying to kill the bee has a beginning, middle, and end, like the objects themselves are characters. It's really inspired work. But how does this relate to the level of comedy? Well, it's Atkinson at his finest here. His physicality and facial expressions haven't missed a beat. Having come from a background of Mr. Bean being a mostly speechless character other than mumbling, a lot of the storytelling comes from his expressions, akin to silent movie acting. This means that a lot of his acting is exaggerated intentionally to amplify and highlight the mood and message of the scene. Even though that's very apparent here with the Trevor character, he obviously has a lot of speech as well, with brilliant comedic timing and delivery that he draws on from other previous speaking roles such as his Blackadder days. Man vs. Bee therefore becomes almost like a love letter to everything great about Rowan Atkinson as a performer. Some of my favourite comedic highlights are when the bee crawls up his trousers while talking to the police officer and he just sort of gyrates and makes weird noises on the doorstep. Then there's the running gag of Mrs. Kolstad Bergenbatten's voice being used on the voice-controlled security system, so he tries to speak like her to work them. It just sounds so funny. And another funny bit is after he thinks he's killed the bee with the Hoover, he performs this spiritual fire burial with a Hoover bag on a barbecue. It's great stuff. But my two funniest moments come from non-Atkinson related things, just two well-executed bits of visual comedy. One is while in the shower, Trevor sprays the bee. When he looks on the floor, it's gone, but there's just a tiny trail of wet footsteps that he follows. That proper sent me west. But my biggest laughs came from Cupcake the dog in the back of the car. Whenever Trevor takes a hard turn, it just slides and smacks its head off the side. Oh, the blunt force and the sound effects here just made me fold. One missed opportunity for a gag, I think, was when the bee gets trapped in the piano and Trevor tries to hit the keys to squash it. There was definitely a B-flat joke in there somewhere. Come on, how did you miss that? It's still a great scene though, putting on Chopin to smack as many keys as possible. If you know Chopin, in this situation you'll know this move was like calling in an airstrike on that bee. On top of Man vs. Bee being impressively creative and well executed, there's also some rather touching moments added in which were a refreshing detour, though could have been explored a bit more perhaps to make them more meaningful. Trevor is a divorced father, still retaining a strong bond with his daughter, and he and his ex-wife are keeping it together for her. So despite being a bumbling, clueless idiot, you do start to see Trevor as a beaten down guy, struggling to get jobs and money, and just wants to provide a good life for his daughter. And later we get a scene where Trevor and the bee connect, with him learning the male solitary bee gets kicked out of the hive and lives out his days alone without a home. That was a really nice touch, linking the bee and Trevor together, and should have really been the moment Trevor learned the errors of his ways. But a few minutes later, he's trying to shoot it down in flames. It was nice for these character moments to be added in there, but there wasn't really a resolution. Trevor still has a disdain for the bee, regardless of what he learns. And then at the series end, he and his family are just fine. The divorce thing isn't really explored again in depth. They could have been split up or just going through some stuff, or he could have just been spending too much time away from the family. It could have been any problematic obstacle really. Didn't have to be divorce. So it just felt like, alright, that's a part of the script I guess. We're not really going to touch that as much. But all in all, this was a really fun watch. If anything, to see Rowan Atkinson honing his craft again. There'll probably be Netflix users now who have watched this but have never seen Atkinson before, so I hope this leads some people to go and check out other stuff from his career. If you're one of those people, I'd say a good place to start if you enjoyed this would be Mr. Bean's Holiday. Man vs. Bee was a flurry of chaos with a snowball effect that gradually built up into an avalanche. A simple concept but pulled off brilliantly by mastering its physical comedy setup and meticulous eye for detail. I was buzzing about this. Do you get it? It's a pun. But were you buzzing? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, Ghoul Gang, I'm Connor from Unleash the Ghouls, and remember, everything is in the manual.